An island sits at the crossroads of the New World, shaped by the currents of the Atlantic and the weight of empires. To many, it is a place of vibrant music and sun-drenched streets. But beneath the surface, Cuba's history is a relentless cycle of birth, collapse, and reinvention. It is a story of a nation that has spent centuries trying to define itself, while the rest of the world watched with intense interest. To understand the Cuba of today, we must look back at the moments when the island nearly broke and the decisions that changed its path forever. For 400 years, the Spanish flag flew over the city of Havana. Cuba was known as the Pearl of the Antilles, the most vital port connecting the riches of the Americas to the courts of Europe. It was a land of incredible wealth, built on the production of sugar and the labor of hundreds of thousands of enslaved people. This colonial system created a society of deep inequality, where a small elite lived in luxury while the majority of the population lived in shadows. By the middle of the 19th century, the tension between the colony and the Spanish crown began to reach a breaking point. The dream of independence was carried by poets and soldiers alike. José Martí, a man of letters and action, became the soul of the Cuban struggle. He envisioned a republic that belonged to all Cubans, free from the control of any foreign power. The war for independence was brutal and long, leaving much of the countryside in ruins. Just as the Cuban rebels seemed close to victory, a new player entered the conflict. In 1898, the explosion of the USS Maine in Havana Harbor brought the United States into the war. Spain was defeated, but the independence that followed was not exactly what Martí had dreamed of. The early 20th century was a period of fragile stability. Cuba was technically a sovereign nation, but the United States maintained a powerful influence over its laws and its economy. This was the era of the Republic, a time when Havana transformed into one of the most modern and glamorous cities in the world. Grand hotels, casinos, and theaters rose along the coast, attracting celebrities and tourists from across the sea. However, this progress was hollow for many. In the rural provinces, poverty remained high, and the government often served the interests of foreign investors rather than its own people. By the 1950s, the nation was sliding into a dark period of dictatorship. Fulgencio Batista, a former soldier, took control of the government, leading a regime marked by corruption and the suppression of dissent. Havana became a playground for the international mafia, while the gap between the rich and the poor grew into a canyon. The feeling of national pride was wounded. Many Cubans felt that their country had become a colony once again, not of a king, but of corporations and criminals. This was the moment of greatest internal struggle, where the desire for change began to burn in the hearts of a new generation. In the dense forests of the Sierra Maestra Mountains, a small group of rebels, led by Fidel Castro, began a campaign that would shock the world. Their goal was simple but radical: the total overthrow of the old system. What started as a desperate struggle by a few dozen men grew into a national movement. In January 1959, the revolutionary forces entered Havana. The old regime collapsed overnight. For some, it was a moment of liberation. For others, it was the beginning of a long exile. The revolution did not just change the government. It sought to reshape every aspect of Cuban life, from education to the ownership of land. The transformation of Cuba quickly placed it at the center of the Cold War. As the new government moved closer to the Soviet Union, the relationship with the United States shattered. This tension led to the most dangerous moment in human history. In October 1962, the world held its breath as nuclear missiles were discovered on the island. For 13 days, Cuba was the stage for a standoff that brought humanity to the brink of total destruction. The crisis ended with a secret deal between superpowers, but it left Cuba isolated, caught in the middle of a global chess game that would last for decades. The consequences of this isolation became devastating in the early 1990s. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Cuba lost its primary trade partner and its economic lifeline almost instantly. The nation entered what was called the Special Period. It was a time of extreme hardship, where electricity was rare, food was scarce, and transportation stopped. The world expected the Cuban system to fall, yet the nation endured. People turned to bicycles, community gardens, and traditional medicine to survive. This era proved the resilience of the Cuban people, but it also left deep scars on the national psyche. Today, Cuba remains a land of profound contradictions. The crumbling facades of colonial buildings stand next to modern medical centers. It is a country that has achieved high levels of literacy and health care, yet its youth often look toward the horizon, dreaming of opportunities elsewhere. The silence of the streets is filled with the echoes of the past, of revolutions and crises that refuse to be forgotten. As the world changes, the island continues its long search for a future that honors its complex heritage. Cuba's story is a reminder that the path of a nation is never a straight line. It is a journey defined by the courage to seek independence and the heavy price that often comes with it. Whether viewed as a symbol of resistance or a cautionary tale, the island remains a unique chapter in the story of humanity. As the sun sets over the Malecon in Havana, the waves continue to crash against the shore, much as they have for centuries, witnessing the steady, quiet endurance of a nation that has survived the storm. Every nation's tale is a chapter in the history of us all. If you found meaning in this journey, please like this video and subscribe. Feel free to explore our channel to see how other nations survived their own moments of fragility. Your support ensures these stories are never forgotten. Thank you for watching.